Well, good afternoon, my friend across the pond, Richard Kelly, and good morning to us here in the United States, whoever's listening and tuning into this. And I'm just so grateful. What is this, episode 6 of
Wow.
Conversations Across the Pond? Can you believe it, man? Episode 6. And I'm excited for what we're going to talk about today. And we have this great conversation I've had with Richard before this, that what's the one of the biggest things that we see occurring today in the world of leadership, in the world of whether we run businesses or teams or just the things that we see in the world today. And we're going to talk about that, this idea of what does a influential leader look like versus what we see in the world today is also what I call an institutional leader. And we're going to break down some of those ideas. But before we do, I want to check in with my friend Richard here and just say, how are you doing, Richard? And how are you doing this wonderful Friday?
Well, it's a beautiful day here. It's actually been a beautiful day already with the sun being out all day. A bit fresh,
Mhm.
a bit cooler than normal, but it's great. And yeah, I'm great. I've been enjoying the moments of connecting with people, being in conversations with people. It's been actually a wonderful period of, yeah, actually going with the flow. I know it's people don't know what's this flow thing, but not not paddling up the river, just going down the river as a flow. And I've had some few things where it's allowed me just to not paddle up the river, but just to go with the flow of things, especially my business side. And that flowing of just going with the flow has allowed things to unfold as and when they should without me having to force it. We
Hmm.
were talking about that before, about how forcing can really create a lot of our stress, our strain, our body movements, etc. Because we're not in the flow of that action. We're kind of beating ourselves up, is the
Mhm.
expression. And this week for me has been not beating myself up, as the
Hmm.
expression there, just going with the flow. And it's great to see you back. I know you've been away for a few weeks on the other side of America.
Yeah.
And it was great to hear your stories and sharing that. And I appreciate that what you came back with. It's great news about how things are developing for you on the
Thank
other
you.
side of America.
Thank you. And what came back from that trip, back to my home state of California, where I lived for 17 years, is the ideas that spawned here, thanks to my good friend Richard's, the work that you do and the leadership work that you do, right? And from day to day, and the things that I ran into also, things that I was actually hired to come back to do. I saw these differences in how we show up in leadership. And I love what you mentioned there as an influential leader. There's this relational component that you mentioned. I'm connected, having conversations, going with the flow. That's that relational engagement. Remember, if those that tuned in the first couple episodes, we talked about engagement, we talked about culture, and I love what you said, Richard. It's always stood out to me is culture is how we're engaging, how we're being, how we're showing up, how we're smiling, how we're being, joy-filled, how we're going with the flow. It's almost like a living, breathing document. It comes with us. It's not
Yeah.
some mystical place unless we go to institutional leadership where the hard work, it's effort, you notice with this idea of transactional. I love what you said, like forcing the doing. You ever hear people talk about what do I have to do today? What's my tasks? What does I have to get done? What's the bottom line? What's the thing that I need to get done? And so as we talk about that today, that's on the opposite end where you see we and you work with a lot of companies that deal with the pressure of the bottom line, which turns things into a transactional exchange of information instead of a relational exchange of who we are as human beings in our work together to make anything worthwhile. Right. And so interesting to see. I'd love to hear from you as we launch into that. Why do you think so many companies, though they want this influential leader, relationships, engagement, connection, collaboration, they end up here distant, not connected, not showing up? right? This is the Billy Beans of, remember we talked about Oakland Athletics, the American baseball team, how he's based on statistics,
Yeah.
descriptive language completely, doesn't even want to know a player's life, doesn't want to know their family, doesn't want to know what their hopes and dreams are, doesn't want to know the emotion. So it's easier to cut them, move pieces, shift them around, becomes a robotic way of working. But that's how most businesses you and I walk into are operating, yet they want this. And what do you think some of the complications come with that? Why do you think they end up getting down to using that bottom line language? We need to have these things occur in order for us to keep business afloat, to hit our goals for the year.
Well, I think there's several aspects or several ways of looking at it. I mean, the first one is maybe they're copying different other companies' strategies,
Mm.
other companies' processes and procedures. Let's copy and paste. It's such easy now, accessible to get anything off the internet regarding processes and procedures that someone else has created, which will make our job much easier. But really, because you really don't know why they created it, what was their intention, what were they wanting to get out of creating that process and procedure. It has to come from within ourselves of how we are wanting to run that business and the way we want to run that business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, okay, it's for me, it's very simple. There's the fear factor.
Mm.
That fear of showing my emotions. What's going to happen if I show my emotions? What will people think? So there's the identity issue. You know, there's so many pointers that could relate to any type of industry. And yet the flip to that coin is where there's a problem, there's the solution.
Mm.
It's actually just observing it from a distance, thinking differently about that problem,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at it from a different perspective of knowing that, hey, it may be right, it may be wrong, but
Mm.
what have we got to lose about changing our approach in being more emotional or being more relationship with our colleagues,
That's it.
with our partners, with our services, with our clients, etc., etc. And for leaders, you know, we're not in their world, we're not in their heads, we don't know what's going on. But you know, there could be many aspects of them. It could be pressure from external, but a lot of it comes from internal pressure that
Mm.
builds up, you know, and that's why they have the burnouts, that's why they have the depression, that's why they
Yeah.
have their strokes. There's many things that relate to someone who's a busy director of business, a busy CEO, a busy leader
Mm.
that can create that ripple effect. And we were
Yeah,
talking about that before, huh? The ripple
it's
effect.
huge. Like you said, busy. We hear the word busy a lot, and we think about institutional leader. It's this idea of performance that I have to that we're pressured to hit this. So let's cut off all emotion. Let's cut off engagement. Let's cut out those little maybe gatherings that we have for office coffee or for having lunch together or for building camaraderie. We got to cut that out. Let's chase after the bottom. And really, as what you and I see, and the reality is people are about purpose, they're about value, they're about a process of how we show up in each other's lives, which is the factors that drive performance, but they don't see it, gets missed, that when stuff hits the fan, we cut these out. But yet it's interesting to see that when I'm not into it, I'm into anymore because no one notices me or I've lost that connection to the value. I turn into this place where it becomes about almost the volume. I just showed up and I'm staying busy because you and I hear this a lot, this word busy. And it made me think of, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There's a great book that I'm reading called the 10X is easier than 2x by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. You and I follow some of Dan Sullivan's work, right? And Dan
Mhm.
Sullivan's, he's just one of the best coaches on the planet. Just awesome what he does, and he creates these big systems and strategy. Type, he's always, he builds processes, but in a relational way. And this is what he says. He goes, he says he sees entrepreneurs falling into this trap all the time, warning them that tightly scheduled entrepreneurs, people in business, cannot transform themselves, cannot. And then he talks about people try to 2x themselves, performance. We're trying to double our income. We're trying to hit our bottom line. Is they're always working in their business, but the 10x exponential growth beyond what we thought was possible, the kind of the how did we get there, is working on ourselves and working on the business, on ourselves and on our people. You mentioned flow, going with the flow. It's interesting when a lot of our leaders that we work with are pressed, they go straight to cutting this out, yet they can never get the type of results they want unless they add that in there. Impossible, as Dan Sullivan would say, to hit that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, there was a story I heard. There's a coach that we know, Steve Hardison, where he was coaching a business guy. He had about 4 companies, I believe,
Mhm.
and he said he wanted to, sort out the businesses, etc. And what Steve says, go away, go and find out what you really want with these
Mhm.
businesses, and if need be, you have to rebuild them all again, but you will know how to rebuild them better. And that relates to anyone with a business. My brother-in-law, I remember when he had his first business and it went bust, he went bankrupt. And my father said to him, well, next time how to build up a new business, how to watch out for
Mhm.
them things, knowing what you want. And it helped him to create a business that he enjoyed, that he wanted, and he learned from them lessons.
Mm.
He learned from their experiences. Sometimes it's,
Mm.
you want to make them changes because you want to change your team. You can't change the team.
Yeah.
You got to look at yourselves first. What is it that you really want? We were talking about that this afternoon
Yeah.
as well. Huh? What is it that you really want
That's
right
it.
now? This is the most important time, is right now.
Mhm.
Because whatever you're going to create now is going to affect your business later on. It's going to affect who you are. Because that clearing there helps you to move forward.
Mhm.
There's problems. Well, we call them problems, but there's things that pop up. The experiences pop up, and as I say again, there's the solution to it. But you don't look
Yeah.
outside, huh? You got
Yeah,
to
you
look
got it.
inside yourself. You got to
Yeah.
look inside yourselves. How you are showing up,
Mm.
how you are taking that time to appreciate someone on an administrative, or as you said, we were talking about the Starbucks previously as well, taking the time to thank that person who's made you that coffee and really being authentic and clear with clear communication. Thank
Yeah.
you. It really makes their day when someone is really taking the time to look at them, to appreciate them, and to acknowledge them.
Mm.
How often is that really done in business? How often is it done in our own private lives? Is it done with our families, with our children, with our spouses, our partners? That's, it really is coming down to the simple things,
Yeah.
not how I look or how does my partner think about me or does my business partner. No, if you're being authentic and you're being clear and straightforward with the conversation, they'll pick it up.
Yeah. And you made me think about that too, where as you're saying that, it's almost like if I'm an institutional leader where I have a format, it's built, it's designed, like you said, maybe somebody else, I even copied it perhaps, but I don't own it. There's no spirit, there's no joy, there's no creativity. It's almost this, all I can see is I'm solving problems. Over here on the influential side of being a leader, all I see is solutions. And I turn up my listening.
Yeah.
I turn up my listening is what I hear you saying there is I turn up my listening where maybe over here I become more fixed. I become more, I set my agenda and I cut out all and allowing myself to receive feedback, to notice others. I love what you said is that kind of goes as you started that describing for us so wonderfully is what can I do to become more of an influential leader today, right now? And I love the words you said, like appreciating, acknowledging, and noticing others. He was referring to Starbucks. And for those of you, as you're listening to this, notice when you get your next latte, you're going to notice this after hearing this is most people, they actually have by the last name now. I don't know how it is in Europe, but in America, last name, because there's Starbucks there too, or different
Yeah,
coffee shops there for
yeah,
certain, right, in Belgium. But in the United States, they have it by last name now, I noticed when I was there the other day. And because they had such a huge amount of order pickups from people that just order on their app, or order on the Starbucks app, but no one was waiting in line to order and just actually give their card and pay for it, right? I mean, cash is already gone, but let alone a card. No one was there in front, so that the barista, which they're hired to do, is to bring joy to your day and saying, welcome, good morning, have a wonderful day. But they can never do that when people jet in, grab their food, and leave. By the time they're gone, they don't even get the words out of their mouth. So it's become so transactional in their work. That's something that's actually designed in the Starbucks way. If you ever read the book, it's excellent. The Starbucks Experience, it's almost removed because of how quick the transactions are taking place. You can't even connect human. So I purposely go to the front. Try this out the next time you go anywhere to a restaurant. Is just taking your time to smile, to notice, to say thank you, to be able to be grateful, and see how that shifts even issues that you're running into in the workplace, how just going out for a coffee or taking a colleague out for a coffee and slowing down, actually checking out the old, right, maybe the old snail paste, the old fashioned way, that has so many answers to the issues we're talking about.
yeah, yeah. No, it's wonderful how you expressed that the fact that you take the time to just be with another human being. I think we really forget. I do as well. I forget sometimes that I'm a human being. I can only do one thing at a time. And the fact is, me wanting to rush to go and get a coffee, well, actually, today I went and had a coffee. I sat down, talked to the person doing the coffee, etc. Allow me to feel present where I was instead of just getting coffee and rushing off and then going away and not really seeing. We're talking like the opening up the blinkers and really noticing what activities were going on at the table opposite, what was being, how they were expressing themselves, looking at the emotions of people. That really allows you to be in that presence, because when you're in work, how often do you actually notice your colleagues, how they are feeling, how they're working? You don't know what they're thinking and you don't know what they're feeling, but they're expressing something that's irritating them, that's not feeling comfortable for them. Noticing and recognizing that and saying, is how can I help you? Is there
That's
something
it.
going on?
Right? Almost like it's built into how can I help you influence? How can I
Yeah,
influence your life in a positive way? Right? And I think what you're saying there too, as you're looking at the diagram of like, if I'm an influential leader, influential person, right? A leader is just influence, nothing more, nothing less, by John Maxwell. It's not a title, it's not an education, not a degree, all that. It doesn't. In fact, it was interesting. I was listening to this from a great coach here in the United States on football, and his name is Deion Sanders. He's probably considered one of the greatest athletes of all time. And I love what he said about titles, and because he's now got hired, he's hired on as University of Colorado Buffalo's head coach, and they won one game last year, laughing stock of football, American football. Now they've won 3 games already. And then just the month of September when football started. And he's raised the merchandise sales up 900%. He's brought belief into the school. He's brought an ability to show up in a way where he could, because he's great. That's probably one of the greatest athletes of all time. He could be living on his past. Oh, I'm the greatest. You should listen to me. He puts it all on the shelf and he pours into these young men and women. There's a lot of women that are on the staff too, helping the team. He pours into them. And he says a title does not justify who you are. It just locates where you're at. Lets us know where your office is.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that was a good example when we talked about our Ted Lasso episode. You know, in that series, you know, he didn't put himself on the pedestal being the coach, huh? He encouraged, he supported, he guided, whatever words that you can see from what you're seeing from that show was he was being who he was, and he was creating the leadership within everyone. And
That's it.
Everyone.
Think about the word he had above, right? Above those that watched it. What's the word he had? Believe, right? Believe. And believe can only come from influential leadership.
Yeah.
Because we see the thing called that we look at. Here's maybe we look at our goal. Oh, we're driving to this. We're trying to hit this. Doesn't matter what the goal is in the company or personal or professional. When we're looking at things from a place of belief, we see the gains. See that green arrow? We see gains where we started up to now. So we're seeing progress, advancement. We're able to acknowledge good things taking place. But what happens a lot of times in the institutional, where the bottom line, we got to get there. We're trying to force it. We're trying to, right, get things to happen. The non-lasso way, all they see is the gaps, that red arrow there. Where I'm at now, I'm not there yet. What do I need to do to get there? I'm always chasing after this image, this facade, this place that is not even real, right? I might have a goal, but I'm not in it because all I see is gaps of why I'm inefficient, ineffective. I'm not doing a good job as a leader, as an employee, as a business owner. And I love what you said there, and Ted Lasso does that so brilliantly, that he shows like I'm showing up. I know what the goals are, but I'm showing up in a way where we're going to celebrate our way up to accomplishing whatever mountain hill we're going to climb. We're not going to do it by smacking and beating each other up.
Yeah,
through criticism and conflict and creating this environment of I don't want to, there's a good show in the 80s called Cheers where everyone knows your name.
Yeah.
Well, this one removes it a lot of times when people go, oh, the bottom line is this. Okay, let's cut out all the small talk. But the small talk, what you saw in Lasso, the small talk was the centerpiece to the influence of helping the team grow and get better and start to unite and see the fans start to believe in them. That's what we're talking about today is how can I shift my thinking, even if my company doesn't yet? How can I start to shift it into this influential bucket and away from institutional mindset?
What I was going to pick up on, I was going to throw a bit of a dagger in here was, we can say, yeah, that's okay. We can be doing this relational thing. But there again, we've got our investors and they want that money coming back to them on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
What is that triggering when we talk like that? It's triggering fear. It's triggering pressure. It's triggering results driven. But you got to be clear with yourselves. What is that results driven meant to be? Yeah, I've got to get paid back the debts and stuff. Okay. But there is a solution to that problem by looking at it from a different angle, as you say, more on the working inside yourself, working with yourself, noticing what's popping up in the day, recognizing how that's helping your colleagues to be more efficient by you appreciating them. It's not just a good slap on the back, say, hey, well done, Richard, you've done a great job. No, really taking that 5 minutes time. Yeah, but 5 minutes is, it's money, huh? It costs us money. That 5 minutes, you would reap the benefits because that person will possibly add in an extra 5 minutes of energy and time to make a difference in the production and the process of that particular work or job that they're doing. That this is the thing. It's we all seem to look at one angle instead of looking at the other angle. Or
That's
we
it.
look at the bridge behind me, we look at one point of the bridge, but in the distance we can see the other bridge, and we're more concerned about getting to the distance over there. But actually, we should be focusing on the bridge at this point here now, which
There
will
you
allow us to
go.
go to the other point.
That's it. And that, like you said, when I love what you said about investors. I'm working with a couple companies on that very thing right now. That everything started transactional in their business dealings and why they invested and why they saw. But notice, it's interesting. Somewhere in there had to be a connection to we see hope in this product, this thing doing well in the market. Had to be, but it shifted back into transactional. Okay, show us the money, right? Kind of Jerry
Yeah,
Maguire, the movie,
yeah.
show me the money, right? When the wide receiver is like, I want to get paid, I want to get paid, show me the damn money. Well, but it started in relationship and it felt back into transactional when it was, I don't know your name, I don't know your family, I don't care, I don't want to care, I don't. But it started that way because they had to buy into there's something worthy of us investing into you that I had to see. But we fell back into transactional in our day to day because, like you said, the word busy comes up. And busy, like what Dan Sullivan was saying, doesn't allow us to ever step back into what got us started to believe in why we wanted to invest to begin with. So what you're saying, what I hear you saying there too, is like getting out of the fear mode that we get so becomes almost reptilian. We fall into it easy, right? All of us do. The intentionality. What do I want? What's my intentions? What do I what am I grateful for? I have to step back into a place of love. Am I solving this from solutions, love oriented, or am I solving it from problems, fear oriented? Am I going to pressure myself and my team to hit the results? Or am I going to call my team up and say, how can we accomplish this together? Effortless, effortful every time.
And it's the way we are focusing on that.
Yeah.
The focusing point is, do I focus on what's happening in the future, or do I focus on what's happening in the present? Well, of course, I'm focusing on the present. I'm dealing with all the stuff that's coming up. Really? Really? Is that the case? Is that really how you're focusing? Because that is, we use the word love and fear. I mean, there's no real, okay, the dictionary gives us the wording, but it's interpreted in so many different ways with everyone. You and I also will have our own interpretation of how that would look for us.
Mhm.
And yet it is the yin and the yang. It is the flip of the coin, the head and the tail of who we are being and who we are doing, what we're doing right now.
And you mentioned it so well. Acknowledging, appreciating, noticing, smiling, listening. When we say love, like you said, it's that real tangible, not necessarily give me a big hug and a kiss, although it could be if it's like somebody in the home front court, my kids, my wife, maybe somebody at work, I high five someone. It could be, but we're talking about that appreciation. I see you. I see the value in you when we're talking about love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I believe there's many keys to that process of what we're saying about the relational part. Yeah, at the end of the day, you've got to be clear what really you want right now in this moment. If you're not clear, you're creating a domino effect of things that take you back into the transactional, I'm calling it transactional world,
Mhm.
where you're just kind of doing the list, doing the tasks, starting from the bottom again. Let's all go up the hill again. Jack and Jill, you know,
Mhm.
let's get them results. And then we all roll down again. And then
That's
we get
it.
ourselves picked up again.
And burnout.
Yeah.
It's almost, I'd say it's darn near impossible as an influential landlord to be burnout. Why? Because we're in the game. We're being ourselves. We're being human, right? We're compassionate. We're coming from a place of noticing others and being involved in our really the purpose,
Yeah.
value. Here, it gets removed into we're just become robotic. We talked about earlier. We're not seeing what's taking place because we're not present. We might be in the future, anxious over are we hitting our goals, results. I mean, you talked about this week. Companies we work with and work for, we got to hit this, Richard. We need this now. Future, anxious. Or why haven't we done that yet? Oh, we're not hitting where we should be by now. Oh, I should on myself. My past, I'm becoming depressed. I'm losing my momentum when I'm staying anything other than being present.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, presence, everyone's going to interpret that differently,
Hmm?
Steve. Everyone's going to think, oh, yeah, they're talking about presence. I'm already present. Presence is, for me, is an understanding that yourself, your body, your mind is okay of where
Yeah.
you are. You know, your body is such a great reference to when you're off-centered. That's my interpretation. Maybe something totally different for Steve and for those listening. For me, when my body's off center, I get the aches and pains,
Yeah.
and I don't relate it to being a back pain. I relate it to be what's my body telling me?
Hmm.
My body's
Yeah.
telling me I'm off centered. I'm exhausted. Okay. I'm off centered. Why am I off centered? What have I been focusing on where I should be really being more present with?
There you go. It's perfect. Like you said, each person has their own definition of presence. But I love what you said there is I'm connecting and attuning into our emotions, my feeling, my body awareness. Kids are great at this too. The most
Yeah.
present human beings on the planet are kids and older people. And the two places we go, we want to grow up and get past adolescence. We don't want to get old. It's like, no, those are the two that have it correct because they're the most present people on the planet are kids and older folks.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the between, we missed it. And I love what you said there. It's like being attuned to my emotions. How am I feeling? I'm noticing. I'm noticing that. Relational.
Yeah.
I'm noticing my emotions, my mindset, my soul, in the sense of do I want to be in this? What in this has value for me? And there's good three questions I love to, when you think about presence, things I ask myself often, or even the clients I work with is, how does this serve me in this moment right now? How does this serve me? Second one might be, is this helpful for me to go there right now? Is this helpful for me to get drained and exhausted and get in fear mode and panic and scurry around? Is that helpful? Because then the third one is, and here's an interesting one above that is this true? Is this true? We're not hitting the mark. Is this true? I'm a bad leader. Is this true? I work for a bad organization. Is this true that there's no good that I can create in this moment with this problem, issue, challenge that is occurring? And that's a good place to come from, like, because what you're saying there is like I'm checking in with myself, and then I'm also checking in with how can I be a player in this game, a participant, somebody that's live and active, helping to be a producer in this film that we call life as leaders, or stand on the sideline as a critic. Yeah, you should have done that. If you would have moved that way, you would have probably hit it. And standing on the sideline and critic, we call that descriptive language versus
Yeah.
generative language, influential leadership. Like you said, presence is I'm generating something new. And it's going to be different for all of us, but I'm starting this lawnmower. I have a hard time starting outside. I'm like, come on, man, start. And it won't. I'm like, but when it starts, you're like, yes, hallelujah, I can mow the grass. I'm starting something from new that was not there before because I'm present, or I can descriptive data, trends, all the things that we go, and we think about this when people that maybe are more on the call pessimists are more realist because they call what is. I said, yeah, the problem is the optimist also then says, but we're not done yet. We're not done yet. There's more to be created. So when you're talking about being present, creativity shows up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What can I create from what I now know that's true, that's helpful, that serves me?
You're on fire today. You're on fire.
Because of
Huh?
you, my friend. You know, they say where two or more are gathered, miracles occur. And they certainly do for me, my friend.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
in our short journey of being friends together, really a year now, um, being your friend, being my trusted advisor, my trusted guide, has launched me, 10x'd me in my spiritual walk, mentally, physically, and emotionally, because you've helped me step into this when I fall into that. We all do. That's okay.
yeah.
That's why we're
Yeah,
here
we all do.
talking about it. When I fall into fear, panic, hit the bottom line, you help lead me, guide me back to get back in relationship with myself and others.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Richard.
Yeah, and that likewise as well. Thank you, because it's a two-way thing, huh? We're supporting each other on a weekly basis, and we're always having these conversations where we pick up on what's going on for each other, and it's great that we're able to support each other on this. And this is what we're trying to highlight to people here. These are the problems that are popping up in our world. They're there constantly. They just come in a different form. They come in a different words. They're all the same. They're
Hmm.
all the same. It's about you working on yourself, being present to what's going on, and knowing what is right for you right now. Is it right to go and have a great McDonald's, or is it right to go and have somewhere where a nice salad bar or a nice, good, healthy meal somewhere else? Nothing wrong with McDonald's. Hey, I love them as well as most of other people. You know, there's the moment to ask yourself, is that really right for me right now? Is it something that I really want right
Hmm.
now? It can be just that choice. You have a choice, everyone.
That's it.
You always have a choice. No one can take that away from you.
And that right there, putting a good final touch on today's topic, is the power of choice to show up as an influential leader or institutional. Now, might be hard to show up in your own without having your trusted advisors, your friends, your colleagues, your counselor, your therapist, your pastor. That's okay. And that's where today, hopefully, you're walking into heavy situations or situations that feel outside of your ability to go, man, I'd love to be this. How can I be that? That's the work that me and Richard do as well. Just that's a big piece of it is you don't have to go through this road alone as a lonely traveler. We can do this type of work together, taking steps at a time, right, Richard? And I want to encourage you from this, if anything started to kind of connect with you on that, because I know a lot of you that are listening to this deal with current institutional type of settings that maybe feels like it's outside of your control, but you are a powerful influencer nonetheless, right? Just like the starfish story, as I wrap today, is there's a story about a starfish, and he's this kid's walk or the starfish along the shore, and this kid's walking out to the ocean with his grandfather, and he starts to pick up at one starfish, flings it into the ocean, and his grandpa's like, "Oh, son, grandson, why are you throwing that in? You can't save all the starfish. You can't save them all. What are you doing?" And the grandson says, "I saved this one." Bing, flicks it in the ocean. So instead of the many, looking at the magnitude of things that we're dealing with, the little things we do each day that chop down that tree, one slice at a time, and how we're showing up and how we're being influential leaders, how we're being present to ourselves, like Richard just so eloquently shared. And I just thank you for this time today, Richard, of being able to share with us your wisdom and your experience and just your journey, man. This is who we are. We're the Ted Lasso in ourself, right? We all have that. But it's allowing yourself to be that today, moving forward. So I'll have our contacts, of course, in the show notes and whatnot. And if those that are listening, if you have ideas that you would like us to present on, please feel free to add that in the notes to say, man, I'd love to hear on this. This is what I deal with. Can you guys talk on that? We would love to definitely entertain that because we want to be able to serve you with the highest value that we can as trusted advisors, right, Richard? So Until next time, brother, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and just a great, I know the weather has gotten wild over there in Belgium. It's been beautiful, low 80s here in Jacksonville. So you're welcome to
Oh
come over and
no.
fly over here anytime you'd like. And until we see each other again, brother, may you have a great weekend and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you everyone else for being here and listening to our recording. Take care, everyone, and take care, Steve. Bye bye now.
Awesome. Bye.